roll. Okay, I'll go ahead and call roll.
Hi, Linda.
Mr. Bowman? Here. Mr. Beazle? Here. Mr. Blau? Here. Ms. Kelly? Here. Mr. Pendry? Mr. Peterman?
Okay, pledge to the flag. Oh, it's right over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll entertain a motion for the minutes of the last meeting. I'll move approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Awesome, that passed. Okay. We are visitors to communication. If anybody would like to address council, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and tell us what you would like to say.
I wasn't thinking I was coming tonight either, so I understand your look. I'm Joan Ferris, 66 Fern Lane.
I'm smiling at you.
And I have no idea why next week's drag bingo was canceled, and might I add, canceled within just a few hours of its having been announced to the public. I'm guessing there was a lot of pushback from residents who objected to the event, but who knows for sure? Not I. If in fact public pushback is the reason for the cancellation, then I thank you for listening to your constituents. Delving more deeply into that same topic, I can't help but ask how on earth a program such as Drag Bingo was ever proposed, let alone approved and then promoted by the Fort Thomas Farmers Market and the Fort Thomas Recreation Department. It makes me wonder who works or volunteers for either of these groups and how on earth they ever got this much power. I truly can't even begin to guess. At a previous City Council meeting, I requested that a public hearing be held to present the discussions that are actively taking place at the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. I was quickly and clearly told that such a public hearing should not and will not take place until the Zoning Board accepts the recommendation of the consultant and moves it to the City Council for a final vote. I can't wrap my head around the absence of logic used in that comment. Today's Drag Bingo announcement and cancellation should crystallize exactly why discussion prior to an announcement is the best course of action. The topic of Drag Bingo essentially exploded the minute it was announced to the public. Then the cancellation of Drag Bingo exploded even more viscerally later that same day. Within hours, comments went from, why are they having this, to why is it being canceled? Open discussion prior to the announcement and the cancellation would surely have toned down the rhetoric. Instead, we are left with comments on the pages of Facebook. Comments included, I'm not shocked, the bigots in this town are nauseating, the bigots in this town are out of control, loud bigots run Fort Thomas, no matter how many people live here, and on and on. The people you're talking about are proud of their ignorance, masquerading as conservatism. It turns my stomach. End of the comments, although there's tons more out there. So here we are again tonight, discussing how a very few unelected people have the power to dictate changes to our city without looking back. Our city's history is being erased, and our current residents are being divided in ways I could never have imagined. I am not overstating my fear when I caution that we are quickly approaching what could be the point of no return, and I, for one, couldn't be more heartbroken. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address council? Well, just two of your concerns. One is a little bit of a misunderstanding on the planning and zoning issue. There will be a public hearing with planning and zoning once they finish their investigation and the review of all the different things that can be done. So there'll be public hearings before it gets to council. So there will be an opportunity. The whole point was to allow planning and zoning and the consultant to have discussions about the different types of different types of zoning methods that are out there, because that's what you do in a total review of planning and zoning. Once those things, that's okay. Once that's done, there'll be public hearings. Okay.
Okay, so that was mentioned before, and the comment, and if you've been to planning and zoning, which I understand you're some on board, I know one spoke against going to the zoning meeting, another has attended nonetheless. There was a lot of discussion at the last one, for two reasons. People showed up, and there was not a quorum of the planning and zoning. So someone in the community wisely said, these people are here to talk. Since you don't have a quorum and you can't move forward, is this not a good opportunity to hear from the public? And it was enlightening when the public spoke, was respectful on both sides. They spoke well, they spoke with good documentation behind them, and nothing was going to move forward anyway. But I believe my impression, and strictly my impression, was that the consultant heard some of those concerns. And to hear them prior to the vote is more beneficial than after the vote. In fairness to the community, their streets, their houses, their lifelong and grandparent-long homes were going to be no longer zoned the way they currently are. To hear that afterwards is a pretty big, rough, uphill battle to try to change that. Prior to a vote, it's fair to hear the concerns.
Well, what you're saying, I understand, and that's perfectly okay. And that's why people are encouraged, their public meetings, people are encouraged to come, listen. If they can share their ideas, that's fine. But to actually have a public hearing to describe what planning and zoning is planning to do can't happen until planning and zoning decides what they want to do. And then they get feedback that says, okay, we like this part, we like it, we don't like this part, what about this? And then they will review the public hearing statements and then make any changes based on that, and then bring it to council once they come up with a decision. But again, the whole idea behind this is that the consultant is hired to help educate planning and zoning and to review all of the zoning that we have in the city. And then from that, formulate a plan on what changes to make, if any. And maybe they get done with all this review and they decide we're not going to make any changes to planning and zoning, to our zoning laws. So that's the point. Once they get to the point of saying, okay, we have some recommended changes for zoning, that's when the public hearing will take place. But coming to the meeting and expressing your concern is fine.
And some people are doing that. I'm just saying a lot of people don't know the gravity of the changes. That you're saying they may say there won't be any changes to zoning, attend a meeting, there will be. It's very clear that the focus is we will change this, this, and this. And I would be very surprised if there isn't a little carve out for something that someone spoke a little bit more loudly about. And that maybe wouldn't get changed, but an awful lot will be. And it's dramatic. And finding out after the fact, my opinion versus yours. Finding out after the fact, it's hard to corral 15,000 people. It's hard to corral the 100 homes at one meeting that might be announced.
I understand what you're saying, but you also have to realize that you can't have a public hearing.
It's not a hearing.
I'm sorry, I thought that's what we were talking about.
It's more like an open discussion. It's like,
Well, that can happen at every meeting that you attend. And you listen to what's going on, and if you have questions, you can ask questions.
I want to go back and see if I used the word hearing, because if I did.
And it might just be semantics, but.
Well, it might be, but if I said hearing,
I appreciate you
I want to take
attending
that
the
word
meetings.
back.
And other people who want to attend the meetings, I think that's great. I think it's important for people to have feedback in part of this, but you can't have a discussion about a decision that hasn't been fully vetted yet. That's the only thing, and it's probably semantics.
It is, but I'm not debating the decision when the decision isn't yet made. I'm debating the public speaking on the components of the conversation from which they will make their decision.
Anybody is allowed to attend. The planning and zoning people.
I'm aware.
That's why they're there. They're volunteering their time in the city to help develop our zoning. And we hire a consultant that has the expertise to go through that.
And my last thing, and no heart for our city, and no experience with our city, and no true love for our city. The consultant consults to tell the changes you should make. I've dealt with consultants for 50 years.
Okay.
And that's, I mean, if they say no changes, kind of don't have any need to exist. And I think I don't have any problem with discussion. I have just a problem with this narrow group of volunteers, some, not all, of who have very specific interests, financial or other. And unless you were appointed, you're just one person for 2 minutes at a meeting. Sorry.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address council?
Hi, I'm Tina Guth. It's G-U-T-H. I live at 615 Highland Avenue here in Fort Thomas. If you could address, as the lady had mentioned earlier, what happened today in terms of the information that was put out on Facebook in regards to the event that was supposed to be held here on June 29th. How was that brought about? It was quickly shut down, and I'd like to know how these things are happening in our city.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. I keep thinking the red light means you're on. Yeah, so that event was brought to my attention. Obviously, I'm new here, so there's a little bit of a transition between Ron and me. That event was brought to my attention today. After discussing the event, it didn't fit to what we have as a health and wellness event. So along with the farmer's market from 7 o'clock till, I forget the times, but there's a set block where historically the city has done health and wellness. So we've done different vaccinations, we've done gun safety classes, things like that, just to bring awareness to the city. This event was an entertainment event, so it just didn't fit our venue anyway. I don't know how it kind of got through. It was just something that was missed, I guess, during my transition here. So that event can be held here in the city. It can be held in the mess hall here. Just can't be at that date and time, and as long as they have a rental agreement, they're obviously allowed to have that event. It just can't be held during that time because we focus that events on health and wellness, and it's an entertainment event. So that's why the decision today was to cancel it, and we've talked to them and given them other options to do in the future.
So could we expect it to be rescheduled then, or?
I mean, that's up to that event.
Outside vendor that came to us with the proposal?
Correct. It would just be like having a wedding here. If somebody wants to rent the space, they're allowed to do it, as long as it's a safe event, which that event is obviously going to be safe, it seems like from what I've heard about it. So, yeah.
A lot of disappointed people out there, I know.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a fairness ordinance for the staff.
Well, that may be true.
It doesn't have to do with that. It's
No,
a health and wellness. Yeah, right, yeah. So they can't have it.
This is a public park where there are children here, and that is steps away from where this event was planned to be held. And I just don't feel like that's something that we necessarily want to promote when our children are here, children, grandchildren, whatever. This has always been a community that was a Christian community that supported family and different things like that. And while there are various degrees of how people look at that, I don't feel like that's something that needs to be brought into the city. And I would just hope that they would look at some of the things that they are bringing in. And I think other people may be stepping up to oppose some of those situations. But now what I understand that you're saying is this was in fact maybe a private event as opposed to the city promoting it.
Correct. Yeah, so if they can have this event in the future, just the city wouldn't promote it.
All right, would anybody else like to address council? Thank you. Sure.
Paula Menominee, I'm Powder Ridge, and just
just wanted to know, have you looked at the comments on Facebook?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Paula Bonomini. You want to spell it?
If you don't mind, since you asked.
It comes out automatically. Bonomini.
Slow.
Thank you.
You're funny. So have you read the comments about this event on Facebook? It's on the City of Fort Thomas's Facebook.
I've seen some, but I had another meeting before this. I got a lot of emails. I tried to quickly respond to a couple of emails, but I haven't seen everything. No.
Okay. You might want to take a look and you might want to revisit. I don't know what you can do about it, but it sure makes our city look really bad. Some of the comments are just horrific.
Well,
Everybody is entitled to their comment, but I think some of them just gone over the top. Just saying. I don't know legally if you can do anything about it, but
We're not gonna remove any comments. I mean, legally, if the city has a policy to do that, we probably could. But, you know, it's a freedom of speech as long as it's not
Yeah,
anything that's profane or anything. Those comments will be hidden. We won't delete any comments because that would violate KRS. But
yeah, I thought.
yeah,
there was
as long as it's
something
not
out there.
profane, unfortunately, they're gonna be up there.
Okay. Someone just went over the top, so.
Thank
all
you.
right, thank you. Anyone else like to address council?
I do follow along. Elizabeth Allegrini, ALLEGRINI, 45 Lockwood Place. Following along with the event, I'm just curious because the way it was presented as it was a city event. I'm not saying I'm for it, I'm against, I'm just questioning. So now we're finding out that it was a private event that was scheduled by someone else. Are you allowed to share who that group was?
No, I don't know who actually scheduled it. What it is, it's a relationship between us and the farmers market where they've been getting people that would
So it's
put
a
in
re- so
for
it's a
the
Renaissance
health
board.
put in for the health and wellness event. So this one is just one I didn't track until today, unfortunately. Obviously, I'll have more time being here to be able to see things like this come up, and it shouldn't be a city event because it is a private entertainment event.
So following that point, when you look at the calendar, and again, I'm just voicing, when you look at the Fort Thomas calendar, it has the farmer's market listed from 3 till 7 p.m. And then there's a little footnote within that farmer's market. Maybe we need to stop doing footnotes and we need to list these events. And I'm not saying, again,
The event's listed separately.
I've got a screenshot.
I've got it. It's on our app. It's listed separately.
It's on the website, it is not.
Okay, I'll look at that.
It's listed just kind of like with an asterisk, fun event, something like that.
Okay.
And I think for several reasons, because if people are coming to the farmer's market, they see, if you're looking at the website, there's a farmer's market. They're not seeing that they're having a goat yoga that is also a separate event along with that.
Yep, take it.
And then to tag along with that, for the rental for the mess hall, what are the criteria? Because I know that there was a group that tried to hold a meeting here and they were denied being able to hold the meeting. I believe they were told that it was political and no political meetings were able to be held here. And I know that they did hold the redistricting for the Republican Party meeting here. So I'm just kind of curious what
You'd have to forward that to me if they got
Okay.
rejected for me to research, but as long as it's a safe event, then.
Hey, Matt. I can actually handle that. That one actually took place a little before you. That group actually was approved to come in here. They were initially, there was initially some trepidation with it. We had the conversation. Obviously, you can't deny anybody from being in here. They actually canceled that event because they learned there was a cost involved. They believed it was going to be free.
Okay, so if there was some trepidation, which hopefully.
Well, there was conversation about the political nature, and obviously we allowed, it was a Republican Party redistricting.
Right.
We allowed that. So obviously, once we look back in the past, we had the past precedent on that one. So they were allowed to come in, they had the entire thing scheduled, and I think there was a question of cost
Okay.
that actually led to that being canceled.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Would anyone else like to address council? If not, we will move on with our agenda. Keep looking in case anybody wants to go. All right, we're down to reports of officers, fire department monthly report.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So what I'd like to add to my monthly report is in the past week, we responded to 3 different fires that were all in overloaded outlets, mainly with air conditioning units. So just remind our citizens that to plug in window unit type air conditioners and those sorts of things into an outlet and not into a power strip or extension cord or something along that lines.
That's good advice, because that is very dangerous. Any questions for the chief?
Move to receive the file.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Great, thanks. Police department report.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to add to my monthly. I'll just say that everyone knows about the event that happened last Monday night on South Grand Avenue. And I would like to personally thank all the officers working, everyone who came in from home, the firemen that responded, the police officers from neighboring cities, and most of all, the Kent County Regional SWAT team. That was a very dangerous situation that ended peacefully and safely. That's the best that we can hope for. But thankful for the people that we have, and glad that it was safe.
Yeah, great job on that whole situation. Thank you.
I'd like to follow that up a little bit. Obviously, that was an amazing job. We were not really flying everybody around. But I happened to be coming through at that time and had to cut down military. The amount of people that were out watching that grandstanding was unbelievable. I think we got to be very careful. That was a really live situation, and the police still need to protect the people around and the people in the house at the same time. You know, so let's make sure we give them their space. That was a live, an active shooter scene. So this is not, there was a lot of people live streaming and a lot of video going out there, and it's very dangerous for kids and people, man, and the police already have enough problems in a situation like that to deal with that too. So they handled it as good as they could, but it was a movie, and it's not really a movie. It should have been. Pretty amazing.
If you close the street, in fact, if you close the sidewalk, I didn't know there were people walking past there at that time.
Kids running around all the neighborhoods and stuff. There's nothing you can do, because they can only widen the space so much, right? So I'm just saying that the people, they can't stop people from coming close. But I think people should take heed that when they're in these situations, they need to be respectful of what they're doing. Honestly, safety for the people ourselves. I wouldn't want to hear about this.
All right, any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to receive the file.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. City administrators report.
Thank you, sir. We've obviously had a very active week for both, for all the staff, but especially fire and PD, and they've performed very well, and I appreciate that. The only other thing to add is we did have letters go out to all permitted golf cart owners last week, so that's all been out just to remind everybody of the rules before the big season here for golf carts. Any council's questions? That's all I have.
All right, we have no old business, no new business. We are down to ordinance, resolutions, and orders.
Can I bring up one topic for new business, real quick? The guerrilla marketing that goes on in this town from some mosquito repellent purveyors and so on, where there's a whole lot of signs going into the public right away, and they don't seem to be being removed. And I'm just wondering, could Kevin's department at least call the phone number on the sign and say, you can't do this in a public right of way, and identify what that public right of way is. They're at entrance ramps, and they're all over the place, and they do this every year. It's not just them, there's others, but if every little independent business, bought those $6 signs and just dropped them in public right of way, I mean, it's already ugly enough, but it could get uglier. And I think we need to kind of crack down on
They're kind of like mosquitoes, right?
it. Yeah, pesky little suckers, so they're
So
everywhere.
maybe we call that number and see if they can get rid of the mosquito signs with their. spray.
Yeah, so what we normally do is we'll remove those from the right of ways.
That are not
If,
removed.
yeah,
They're-
so if you see them, if you could shoot me an email just through, that way we know to go out there. When I see them driving through the
Yeah, I
town.
mean, if one of our departments could be designated and add that to their job description.
We do have that.
And identify, is it like 6 feet from the curb, or what, what public right of way it is,
That's got very.
and that will vary.
Yeah, so that's why, Sam does allow that as well. So that's just something we have to kind of check and know after.
But, I mean, the phone number's right on the sign to call them and notify them that you can't do that in our city.
Yeah, they usually don't respond to that, but we can, yeah, if we start getting those, we can start looking into that more, but generally what we just do is remove them and that goes away, so.
Thank you.
All right. Ordinance 006, 2022, the budget amendment.
No, I can go ahead and do it, sorry, I was taking notes. Go ahead, sir.
Ordinance number 006, 2022, an ordinance amending a general fund budget for the city of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky, for the fiscal year 7/1/2021 to 6/30/2022, by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of the city government.
All right. This is the second reading, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval?
Is there a second? Second. We need a roll call vote.
Ms. Kelly? Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Mr. Beazle?
Aye.
Mr. Blau?
All right, thank you. Ordinance 07 is the 22-23 budget.
Ordinance number 007, 2022. An ordinance adopting a general fund budget, municipal road aid fund budget, debt service fund budget, capital projects CBD fund, health insurance fund, and waste disposal fund budget for the city of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky, for the fiscal year 7/1/2022 to 6/30/2023, by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government.
Okay, this is also the second reading, so I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Second? All right, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly? Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Mr. Pendry? I'm sorry, Mr. Beazle?
Aye.
Mr. Blau?
I'll explain my vote. I'm a yes and aye on this. This is the budget where we did increase it for the residents though, right, this year. This is a 4% increase,
Correct.
right? It has to do with this. I just want to state that we haven't raised it in 2 years. And it's unfortunate that you have to raise this with inflation going on. We did have long discussions about this, and I talked to Joe in length about this. It was not something that came easy. I think we have to be very careful in our city. We have a lot of wants going on, and we have a lot of needs. We need to focus on the needs at this point, not the wants, so that the rent of that doesn't get reflected in our taxes. So I have an eye for this, but I just think that some things can be streamlined a little bit in the next year. I think we need to be very careful. Inflation is real, and even in my store, if you were to see the amount of price on products that go up on a weekly basis, it has to be done in order to keep up.
On this topic, I read we're gonna have a second infusion of ARPA, is that correct, a little over $2 million?
Yeah, but it's the original amount.
Oh,
It's just the second tranche of,
It's just that, what you read was, that's the second one coming. So it's not two more,
It's not 2 more to the additional.
yeah, they took the
I
full
wish
amount
it
and
was.
split it.
I thought, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
So you had your ideas for spending.
May I just, what was the tax rate?
We won't know that until August.
Like,
Oh, sorry. Joe?
the
Tax
tax
rate
rate for
last
property
year.
taxes?
Do you want to know what last year's rate was?
Yes, please.
$3.97 per thousand.
Okay, and so with the increase in the assessment, my assumption that by law we're lower than $3.97
So you definitely have to be lower than $3.97.
on the rate.
Correct.
Yet there will still be some increase in revenue.
4% increase in revenue for the city of Fort Thomas, yes.
And I think it's a good idea, I was gonna ask if Joe could explain, because the current climate that we're in with property values increasing and taking the 4%, to your point, very good point, they don't necessarily, well, I'll let Joe explain. I'll just confuse everybody.
Simply put, what the state statute does is guarantee the city of Fort Thomas a compensating amount of revenue. So we are guaranteed the same amount of revenue. And that amount means that the tax rate fluctuates based on the assessment increase. So if we're guaranteed the same amount of revenue and the assessments increase significantly, our tax rate has to decrease significantly to basically accomplish the same amount of revenue. In this case, we can actually take additional revenue. We're allowed by statute to take 4% additionally without a recall vote to the citizens of Fort Thomas. And even with that additional 4% in revenue, the tax assessments have increased so much. Actually, I think the schools ended up getting a 23% assessment increase. So their tax rate dropped significantly. Our tax rate, as such, even with a 4% revenue increase, will drop significantly. So the city of Fort Thomas doesn't make, I've heard calculations where the city of Fort Thomas is making millions and millions of additional dollars off of this. It's about $230,000 over our $15 million odd budget. So it's really, the statute effectively guarantees us that $225,000, $230,000 and no more.
Yeah, if your house didn't go up, you'll pay less.
Yeah, and that's it. And there are homes that say you bought a house last year, they tend to not reassess that quickly after a home is purchased. You actually could end up paying, I mean, our tax rate could be below $3.70 per thousand. You could end up with a significant decrease in taxes. Now, that's a small percentage of the city of Fort Thomas, but it could happen.
I think what's important with that is, and the way this is being done is 100% exactly the way it should be. I've had too many conversations about it, so I applaud you for that. But I think what's important to Adam's point, if your assessment didn't go up, yours goes down, but that's a itty bitty part of our country.
It's a very small percentage, yes.
But the $397 that it was last year, if you had kept it at that with the assumptions, it would have been not only significantly higher revenue, but that would have then been the base upon which you could increase it each time. So lowering the rate, I think it's as fair as can be. You still get extra money, but the ladder on which we keep increasing stays.
Correct. When this happened 4 or 5 years ago, our rate went from $4.12 per thousand down to $3.90. So it really acts, as we get reassessed every few years, it really acts almost as a reset of the tax rate down a little bit. And so it does ensure that we don't end up with a $5 per thousand tax rate. And we're lucky in Fort Thomas that our assessments continue to increase. So it really does end up that our tax rate does stay somewhat static over the years.
All right. Thank you. We are down to ordinance 008.
Ordinance number 008-2022, an ordinance establishing compensation of the employees of the city of Fort Thomas, County, Kentucky for the 2022-2023 fiscal year and providing for the manner of paying such compensation.
All right, again, this is the second reading. I'll entertain a motion to move approval. Second. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly? Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Mr. Beazle?
Aye.
Mr. Blau?
Aye. All right, and one more, ordinance 09.
Ordinance 009-2022, an ordinance amending the personnel and pay classification plan by unilaterally increasing the official pay rate by 2.5%, effective on July 1, 2022, and amending the compensation ranges for various positions.
Entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Mr. Beazle?
Aye.
Mr. Blau?
Aye.
All right, that is the end of our agenda. If there is nothing else, come before
Did we
council.
have a liquor license?
No. That's July 18th.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, that was just, per our ordinance, per our liquor ordinance, we have to notify council that the application's been received. It's been received, it's sitting on my desk, if anybody wants to see it.
Our city attorney told me last time that I have to ask for a motion for adjournment. So would someone adjourn that? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all for
There you
being here
go.
tonight. Thank you very much.